Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Sony Handycam FDR-AX100. This is a 4K camcorder that debuted back at CES 2014. It's priced at $1999.99, which is why it's been marketed as 4K at 2K. And in terms of specifications, before I get it out of the box, I want to go over everything that this camcorder has to offer. So let me go ahead and get this shot a little bit tighter. Let's start off with first and foremost, the sensor. We've got a 20 megapixel, 1-inch XMOR CMOS sensor. This is the same sensor you'll find in Sony's RX100, RX100 Mark II, and RX10. So this is a very proven and well-liked sensor by pretty much everyone. In terms of the actual lens, we've got a piece of Carl Zeiss glass, T-star coated, 29 millimeters at its widest angle, a 35 millimeter equivalency range of 29 to 348. So that's a pretty good range. 12 times is the literal rating on this lens. Sony does have 18 times and 24 times here, 4K and 1080p respectively, but that's with clear image zoom. In terms of video capture, I've mentioned clearly this is a 4K camcorder, 3840 by 2160 resolution, captured in XAVC-S format. This is going to be captured at a highest bit rate capacity of 60 megabits per second. If you want to shoot 1080p video, you'll be jumping into the AVC HD format, which is familiar for those of you who've used Sony in the past. There you're looking at 50 megabits per second. That's the highest bit rate. So even at 1080p, you're getting a considerably higher detail image than anything you've used before, at least if you're accustomed to Sony quality. In terms of wireless capability, Wi-Fi and NFC are on board. That's so that you can take control of the camcorder using a smartphone or tablet, iOS or Android. If you have NFC, that applies to Android users, the pairing will be even more seamless. Beyond that, do keep in mind this is all driven by Sony's Bions X processor, and that is basically in every one of their latest and greatest cameras and now camcorders as well. So with specifications out of the way, by the way, you can also capture 1080p video. You don't have to stick with AVC HD. You can still capture in MP4. But let's get this thing out of the box. Sony already pointing out that the file transfer is directly from the camcorder. This is something, if you're not familiar with Sony Handycams, I'll be showing you that. Your limited warranty, and essentially the basic paperwork you always get. Most importantly, beyond any coupons or codes, is your instruction manual. And there you have it. Let me get the paperwork out of the way. Let's get right into this box, and actually I'll take us out a little bit wider now that we're back to the action. And I have high expectations for this because as I struggle with actually getting the lid open here, because that 1-inch sensor should not only deliver fantastic 4K video from what I've seen on samples, but also some impeccable stills, something we don't traditionally see with a camcorder, especially a Handycam. So here we've got the lens hood, which is a nice add-on, but this is something Sony's been adding to all of their top-of-the-line camcorders these days, since it is a necessity, especially at this price point. Why not? And then we've also got our battery right here, which was tucked into the actual lens hood, as you may have noticed, and that is a V-series battery. And this is not the smaller capacity that comes with many Handycam camcorders. This is a higher capacity battery. And basically, in terms of usage time, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to see, but generally the FV70 gets very good runtime. So I'm curious to see. I didn't see a rating on the box itself. We've got our standard Handycam remote right here. Moving right along, we have an extender for that USB transfer that I mentioned before. You'll see it on body for the camcorder itself. In the event you don't have the reach, Sony's provided it with this extension cable. We've also got some more cables, exciting I know. Here we've got an HDMI, I believe that, yep, that is a micro HDMI to full-size HDMI, full excuse me, the full 4K output or 1080p, whichever you desire, but you do have a clean HDMI out from this camcorder, something that can be appreciated by prosumers and professionals alike, consumers as well. Your power cord right here, which connects to the actual power brick that goes to the AC, or rather, this connects to the power brick that goes to the wall, and here is the connector for the camcorder. And this has been the standard connection type that Sony's employed on their Handycams now, basically since going HD, at least to my knowledge. It may have even predated HD. Correct me if, I won't say if I'm wrong there, but if I was inaccurate. But let's get this beast out of here, because it is relatively large. For those of you that were expecting something small and lightweight, nothing in that little piece of padding there. I'll get the box out of the way. Something small and light, because it is the smallest and lightest 4K camcorder. Don't be fooled. This is kind of a throwback to when Sony first brought us full, well, I won't say full HD, because it wasn't full HD at the time, but HD capability to the consumer. So here we have it. We're looking at the first 4K camcorder on the market at $2,000. And there are quite a few manual controls on here. I will take you all through them. We've got a 3.5-inch display right here, and that does power up the camcorder. It is a touch screen. We also have an OLED viewfinder right here with a proximity sensor to determine if you're actually using the OLED viewfinder. That's for battery saving measures as usual. On the back of the camcorder, you can see we've got the ability to turn off a built-in neutral density filter, yet another nicety of this top-of-the-line camcorder. 3 different settings for that neutral density filter. On the right side, we have the ability to switch in and out of video and still mode, as well as start and stop recording. Our DC in for power right there. That's to actually charge the battery when it's mounted. Beyond that, we have our rocker right here for zoom. Behind that, the still capture button. By the way, this 1-inch sensor is not capable of a true 20 megapixel still. I believe it's limited to 15 megapixels in a 4:3 aspect ratio and 15 in a 16:9, for those of you that are curious. We've also got a multi-interface shoe. This has become pretty much standard for Sony these days, and this will give you a variety of different options to attach for flexibility. The most important, though, would be Sony's XLR audio adapter, so that'll give you pro audio, but at a pro price tag, $800 for that adapter. But affordable when you consider the $2,000 price point that this camcorder is being delivered at. Shutter speed control, your gain and ISO. You've also got iris here as well. Manual mode can be switched in and out of. You have a dial here that will take you through basically controlling all of these settings. This ring can be used either for focus or zoom. It's a matter of which you prefer, and you can see the switch right there. So if you flip it down, you're going to be manually focusing. Flip it up, you're manually zooming. That's if you prefer that over the toggle over here. In terms of actual audio, this camcorder does support 5.1 surround sound. That's all being captured predominantly right here in this array. I expect good audio, but keep in mind it is onboard audio, so expectations have to be realistic. You can see that 18 times clear image zoom marketing right there. As I mentioned before, it really is a 12 times optical zoom. NFC contact point right there. Some marketing for the SDXC and memory stick media formats that it supports. We've also got a microphone input right here in case you want to use a traditional mic, as well as Sony's multi-port right there, which will support things like remote controls, among other things. That's basically Sony's entry to a whole host of different accessories. Here is the USB transfer cable I mentioned before, so you can now see why it will need extending. This is pretty much a standard thing that Sony does on their camcorders. You can see it just tucks right into the handle. Convenient, simple, and makes efficient use of the space. Other things to point out here, I'm looking around, We've got our tripod mount on the base, and that's pretty much it. Infrared blaster right there for use of the remote, and I think that covers everything. Let's take a look at that Carl Zeiss lens. Really Sony lens, branded with Carl Zeiss optics, I should say. And in terms of aperture, you can see it's an f2.8. That isn't constant. I believe it's to 4.5 range on the entire 29 to 348. So that's still very good. Optical image stabilization is on board, but I think most of you expected that. You can see the power button right here, playback. We've also got the display toggle, so you can display in and out of how much you want on the display in terms of your shooting mode, all of the information on screen. This is nothing new. Night shot is also on board. That's part of that infrared blaster there on the front. Your quick route to white balance right there, and your program button. You also have your HDMI output right here. Again, that is clean HDMI. It is a micro. That's why you saw that included micro to full-size HDMI plug. And then we also have a headphone jack right here for monitoring. So you can easily hook up your headphones of choice, wired headphones, and monitor your audio. Here is your memory card bay. It only supports a single card, but keep in mind that with that, the two file formats, I should say, both for 4K and for 1080p, whether you're working with XAVC-S or AVC HD, because of those bit rates that Sony has put together, they may sound meager when compared to things that we see down the road, but they are incredibly efficient. So you're able to actually capture an hour of 4K video footage on a 32 gig SD card, and as long as it's class 10 SDXC, you should be fine. So that's another achievement of this camcorder. We do not need some special proprietary format in order to capture 4K content natively, and that's generally a very expensive undertaking beyond the gear that we're looking at right here. So a lot of manual control, a lot of flexibility. You have that 20 megapixel still, well, they claim 20 megapixel overall still capability, even though I mentioned it's really 14 and 15, and just really a very lightweight camcorder, maybe not when benchmarked against traditional camcorders that we've come to expect and use these days for traditional 1080p. But when you take into account what this is capable of, this is a marvel of engineering right now. So while it may look big to some of you, I can assure you that this is incredibly small for its capability. And yes, in a few years, things will get smaller, but for right now, you're looking at the smallest, lightest, and most affordable 4K capture device on the market. So a lot to like here. Very excited to finally get this, share it with all of you. By the way, the focus magnifier, I almost missed that right there on the right side of the lens barrel, essentially, the lens assembly. And build quality feels good. This is made in China, but Sony has shifted all of their manufacturing these days to China. So a camcorder that would have once been made in Japan is now coming out of China, like everything else. And that's not in any way a bad thing when it comes to the hardware or build quality. This is all built to Sony specifications, so keep that in mind. So very excited. By the way, the viewfinder here does extend. I didn't mention that earlier, and articulate. So that's another nice feature. This is something Sony's been doing for a little while now. It's not really a new thing, but a versatility thing that is good. And it really does remind me of my first HD camcorder from Sony in terms of size, styling, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if they did go back to basics when creating this, because it is a game changer. And again, they had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted because there is no competing device on the market now. So a lot to like here, and just really excited to share it with all of you. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.